This is a project that I decided to do. I'm renovating a balcony, and this is a four flat building, and I'm the top unit on this one. And a part of the standard maintenance that you do is you want to make sure that your steel is taken care of because if you can imagine over time it rusts. Just to kind of give you some location, I'm on the west side of Chicago near United Center. Some of these views you can actually see the Sears Tower out in the distance, but thinking about the project overall, essentially you need to sand down everything first, and then you take the paint thinner to remove all of the dust and particles from around there. And then you're able to, you're ready for paint, right? The paint primer preps you for paint. So now I'm starting to go around it with the primer itself, which is that red coat of paint that I'm putting on there. And for all of the railing, I'm using a brush. But for these middle kind of conjoining, kind of rectangular prisms are really what they would be across the middle. I'm using a roller so that I can get all four sides, and it makes it a little bit easier for me there. So I worked my way around with the primer, and then it dries pretty quickly, and the sun was out, beautiful day. And then I'm coming in with the black paint. Now, you'll notice that I have plastic down, not just on my deck because I'm going to remove that wood, so the plastic doesn't really matter, but for the people below me, I also coordinated with my unit below me to make sure that they put plastic down and around all of their areas. So just continue to kind of paint all of this and just try to be as meticulous as possible. I'm contorting my body in different ways just to kind of get all of this done, and you'll kind of see the limits of that as I go through this project. But continuing to paint the railing, when you do it with a brush, it just has this nice, clean finish to it, very nice and smooth to the touch. As you can think with the roller, after you are using it for a while, if that paint dries a little bit, then it adds a texture when you roll across it. So you got to be careful about that. I'm using an extender so I can actually paint down the side of that steel. So I can't reach it, but I can reach it with a roller. So usually you use this for something overhead, but I'm kind of using it for something below. And then I'm just going through and just kind of touching up all the areas with the brush. So that clean coat of paint that comes on there, it's kind of motivation to start into removing the wood and getting to the core of the project. So I'm removing that outside, and the thought process is I'm going to work myself outside in. So remove all of the wood from the outside so I can lay across that first layer of steel what I'm going to call an underlayment of wood. You almost think about it like a box spring for a mattress, right? So I'm putting that there so that I can actually come in and put the larger pieces of wood on top of it. And I'm starting on that furthest in there so that I can actually have that taken care of as I start to remove the wood. Now, you'll see me come in with these thinner pieces of wood. I'll just actually first have to drill through the steel on that. So you see me kind of drilling in there, making sure there's a nice hole. And then from the underneath, then I'll reach underneath there with a drill and I'll take a screw from underneath the steel that's just been drilled through, and I'll actually put the pieces of wood in place through a screw that is coming up from the bottom, right? So it's a cleaner look there. So the unit underneath, you don't see all those screws kind of coming down and just not as clean an aesthetic underneath there. So I got that wood placed on the outside, so that furthest in. Now, if I'm thinking about it, I'm like, okay, well, let me try to get up as many screws as I can from this wood. And this wood is pretty worn. A lot of it is, crumbling at times. But I want to work my way on the outside now, right? So I'm doing that top part, placing the underlayment there, and then I'm coming over to the left and placing the underlayment on that other piece. And as you can see, once I cut it away, I can still actually sit down on it. So I was trying to stay seated as much as possible. As the wood starts to be removed, of course, there's a smaller area for you to kind of walk around in and operate in. Now I'm getting that other underlayment place, so now you can think all three of the outside edges have that underlayment there. And then I'll just start to kind of work my way in. You'll see how the steel underneath is kind of constructed. It's the four outside edges and then three middle, or I'm sorry, four middle pieces that come across. You would call that perpendicular with the building, and then there's another one that comes across the middle parallel with the building. You'll see that as I start to remove the wood. That was day one. It starts to get a little bit late. I'm trying to get as much out of there as I can. You see my progress here. Now I start back in there, trying to get that wood up out of there again. That is probably the toughest part. You're really prying that wood out of there. These nails go from wood into the steel, so they're really kind of lodged in there. I want to dust off all that rust before I put that new piece of underlayment there. I drilled that in, and as you can see, that mass is getting smaller and smaller. So eventually, I'm going to be working from inside the unit, right? So I'm just removing it, and I have all of the underlayment placed besides these three that I'm working with now. So I'm just trying to get all that wood out of there, and this is tough. This is tiring. I mean, a lot of these things don't want to come up out of there. So a lot of strength and everything kind of needed there, but I'm done with that. Go get the wood from Home Depot. And now it's just easy as just kind of placing it. You see how I placed all of the different underlayment pieces there. So now I'm sliding in this wood that I had pre-cut at Home Depot right into place. So I told them 108 for each of these. They cut it down, easier to fit in my car. And then I place it. And now I'm starting to kind of drill it in, screw it in place. But it looks beautiful. Definitely a long project, tiring, over about 3 days it took me to do this one. But I had a solid plan going into it, and I'm happy with the results. It's a really strong piece of wood that's in there now. It's about a inch and a half thick, and this will last a really long time. So when I'm ready to rent this unit out, I don't have to worry about someone coming out on the balcony and hurting themselves from that wood not being there. It'll present a lot better when someone comes to rent or purchase. So I'm happy with this project.